Hello, there is an extra bit of kit, or 2 bits of kit, on top of what I usually use for my live jams here. This is a Novation Launchkey Mini, it's the Mark 1, and this is a DAW MIDI USB MIDI host. Both of them are relatively inexpensive bits of kit. I don't have any sponsorship for anything that I do here. If I give you a good impression of something, it's because I've enjoyed using it and it's done what it says it should do on the box. I've got no vested interest in pushing any products. I would say do your research before you think about even buying anything. I would also say dig in the cupboard and see what you've got already that you might not be using, and that's pretty much what happened here with the Launchkey. I bought this I think probably about 8 years ago. It was my first return to music kind of bit of gear. When I was a kid, I messed about with a very, very old Casio keyboard and had that wired up to my 486 computer and made music that way. And then I had probably a 6-7 year break, if not longer, before I then decided I wanted to have another go at all this kind of stuff. So I bought the Launchkey Mini. It came with Ableton Live Lite, which has 8 channels and 8 scenes, and in that way, in comparison, inexpensive start. But once I decided that I'd really kind of got into the swing of it and I wanted to do a bit more, I then started looking at bits of external gear, and here we are. So this has been in the cupboard for a fair few years until I decided that maybe there was a chance to wire it up to things. How it works at the minute? Well, this is powered via a USB connector. There's a wall wart down there that it plugs into. It then has a USB input from the keyboard, and then a standard MIDI output goes into the circuit. This is on MIDI channel 1, and that then means that any notes I play on here will play synthesizer 1 on the circuit. You can create mono patches or polyphonic patches, and in that way this has to react to those. The other fun thing about it is, though, that if you choose a scale mode on the circuit, you probably won't be able to see the lights too well, I appreciate that, but if you choose a scale mode on here, whatever input you give from the keyboard will respect that scale mode. So in a sense, you can't play a wrong note if you pick a good scale. That's something that's quite good for a keyboardist like me who doesn't really have that much kind of skill or practice. This is a bit of a washy pad that I created, and I'm a couple of octaves up, so I'll go down again, and there's quite a few effects on there that I can turn off. So here, this is in such a scale that there is you can see the sharps and flats are kind of pushed into, I don't know whether that's Lydian or Mixolydian or whatever. Again, my theory's not great. So that is useful for creating sort of atmospheres and stuff, because personally I don't much like playing on the pads as a musical instrument. Partly because it means that I can't flick and change between stuff very easily if I'm in the middle of a performance, but it also it's not so nice tactile wise. I don't find it as good an experience as using a standard keyboard. If I'd got the space, I would probably plug in something a bit bigger, but it is what it is. So that's the theory behind it. The other thing that's quite fun that I didn't realize straight away is that these MIDI CC dials, it's MIDI controller change dials, they are actually hardwired to certain messages, but some of those messages do actually correspond to useful things on the circuit. So in that way I can get back some of these macros that I might have chosen to assign to something. I can use them for something else and then just use the dials on here. One example is, I think, pulse width modulation for one of the oscillators is hardwired to this CC dial, which is 21, I think. Yeah, it's, as I say, it's just another thing on the desk. So in a way, it can sort of be daunting if you set up a configuration like this and you're not kind of used to some of it, at least, it's perhaps a bit too much to take on board. But because I've been using this setup for quite some time, adding this is not throwing me too much. The plan is, even with like the rhythm stuff not present, and I'll turn down the edge as well, I can let's get rid of the kick drums. I've got an atmosphere playing. I can add a few effects to it. I can even switch pads again, or switch synths. And that adds to the atmosphere. This is the kind of thing that I'd love to use for like an introduction to a set or a piece. And the TR-8S has a reverb and delay which can affect everything that I've just recorded as a pad. Need my kick drums. So yeah, there's a way to go with getting my levels right, figuring out what effects that I might want to be throwing in there, getting the patches designed on here. The routing of tempo, MIDI tempo clock had to change a little bit because this was the master, and I couldn't then feed MIDI input to the circuit from the 202 for clock, as well as having MIDI coming in from the launch key at the same time. For some reason, even though I've got like these MIDI splitters, that wasn't actually working. So what I've had to do is make this the master clock and then split the signal out so that it goes to the looper and then to the TR8S and off to the Behringer Edge after that. That's a bit of a frustration because this thing does not respond very well to other devices' clock. It prefers to be the master. So I've had one or two occasions where the loops that are playing back, they sound a little bit like they're time stretched in order to kind of fit with the clock that it's receiving. I'm hoping that doesn't become an issue. Another thing that's been a bit of a challenge is that sometimes there'll be a note that gets stuck on here. That's not what's happening here at the minute, but because that's just got like a long envelope tail. But yeah, sometimes a note gets stuck on this thing, and it seems that the only way to prevent or to fix that is to unplug this and then plug it back in again. And in the middle of a set, that's really not going to be great. But if that's the worst I've got to deal with, then I'm sure I'll figure my way around it. I think that's pretty much everything I was going to say. If you've got any more questions, then leave them in the comments. Comments down below. I can't reach. Yeah, they're there. Can you see the comments? They're right there. That's pretty much it. So yeah, I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.